Yo, what's up guys, Joey here, hope all is well. Today we're going to be building a $1,000 1440p gaming PC. Originally this build was going to be a $900, but the price of the RX 7600 XT did go up from this right here to, at the time of recording, it's currently $420. There's a possibility that the card will go back down again into the 300s. I hope it does. Today's build's gonna be a full beginner guide from start to finish. So if you've never built a PC before, you've come to the right place. And at the end of the video, we're gonna put the build to the test at 1440p. I know it's been a minute since we've uploaded to the channel, about a month. Now let me share with you what's upcoming here on the channel. Feel free to skip ahead to jump right into the build guide. And after this build, we're gonna be releasing the most powerful $1,500 gaming PC. And that is gonna be using the RX 9070 XT by AMD, newly released card that performs great. And after that, we're going to immediately drop a new updated RTX 4060 build guide. I know that the RTX 5060 is going to release in April, but I'm not very hopeful about the whole stock situation and pricing of that card as well when it drops. So I want to release a final 4060 build guide that's updated to be future-proof as well. That build is going to also be $1,000. Let's jump into the build now. A $1,000 gaming PC for 1440p gaming. So for our CPU of choice, the $900 budget, what did it allow for? The Ryzen 5 7600X by AMD. So this build is going to be very future-proof. The Ryzen 5 7600X is a great CPU for gaming and video editing for $200. What we're going to be using to cool it, an up here 6 heat pipe heatsink in the white colorway. We've used an up here heatsink in the past build guide, the $800 budget Intel Arc B580 build, and our motherboard of choice for our build here today at the $900 budget, micro ATX motherboard, an MSI board, the Pro B650 MP. Let's open up this board and see what it offers us. This board has 2 M.2 slots for our SSDs, 6 USB ports, and this motherboard does not have built-in Wi-Fi, so if you're gonna use Wi-Fi, you're gonna need to pick up a Wi-Fi USB adapter. I'll link that in the video description. Also guys, I'm curious, how many of you guys play on Wi-Fi? Because I always run a wired Ethernet connection, but I'm just curious. And this board has 2 4-pin RGB inputs and 1 3-pin ARGB input, which we will be using. We wanna get a standoff and a screw for our M.2 SSD, but last time I checked, this CPU performs just as good as the AM4 3D CPUs. I'm talking about the Ryzen 5 5700X 3D and the Ryzen 5 5800X 3D, which is really good because those 3D CPUs are beasts for gaming, and so is this Ryzen 5 7600X. Taking a close look at our 7600, you're gonna find a golden arrow on the top left side of it. This arrow is important because you're gonna line it up with the arrow on our CPU socket, which is also on the top left. Push the lever to the side, lift it up. We're gonna lift this up, and then we're gonna line up the golden arrow of our 7600 with the arrow on the CPU socket. So in this position, we're gonna hover it right over, and then we're just gonna let it drop right into place like that. If it doesn't go in on the first try, like this, you can simply lift it back up to adjust, but as I even touched it, it fell into place. And there you go, when it's in, you can give it a little wiggle. It's good to go. We return this back down, and we now push the lever back down. You're gonna feel tension. You may feel like you're breaking something. You're not. This tension is normal. Push it all the way down and tuck it into its original position, and then this thing just comes right off. So our Ryzen 5 7600X installed in our CPU socket. Now it's time to install the heatsink. Beautiful heatsink with 2 120mm fans. We're gonna want to take off this cardboard from the middle, and this heatsink also does light up. Both fans are going to light up with a 3-pin ARGB input. So out of the box, we're gonna want to only get the AMD socket bag because we have an AMD CPU. Obviously, it comes with an included screwdriver. We're gonna be using that. And then last, it comes with included thermal paste. You can use this, but I'm going to be using Arctic MX6 thermal paste instead. This is some nice high quality thermal paste, and I'll link the Arctic MX6 thermal paste in the video description. Okay guys, so this is a very easy installation. So we're gonna undo all 4 screws and remove these 2 attachments. Go ahead and get everything out of the AMD socket bag. Inside the bag, you're gonna find these 4 standoffs. These standoffs have a wider circle on one side, and the other side not as wide. So you wanna have the side with the wider circle facing down onto the motherboard, and we're gonna stick it on all 4 points. Just like that. We have these 2 attachments, and as you can see, they have 2 arrows pointing in a certain direction, right here and over there. You want these arrows to point towards the CPU. So I'll put the first one pointing up towards the CPU, and then for the other one, it's gonna be pointing down towards the CPU. Now for the screws, here's the arrows pointing this way. You want the screw to go through the circle closer to the arrow. for both of the screws. And that's how we're gonna secure that one. For this one up here, the screws again to the circle closer to the arrow. So these two right here, just like that, guys, because the arrows are right here pointing down towards the CPU for this one. And now screw them all in. You're gonna want to keep turning on your screwdriver till your screwdriver then stops. There you go. That's how you know you've tightened it enough. Next, we have to apply our thermal paste. We're gonna put a pea-sized amount of thermal paste in the middle of our CPU. There we go. Let's go ahead and get these cables untied. And now we want to remove the protective film on top, where we're gonna make contact with the heatsink. So one side of this heatsink shows the fan, the other one doesn't. So this side that shows the fan, you want that on the right side. So this is the proper placement of the heatsink, just like that. So it's blowing in the air front of the case right here through the heatsink, cooling the heatsink. So now we line up the 2 points of our heatsink with the 2 attachments. And when I'm laying the heatsink down, I like to look down here to make sure I'm lining it up correctly as I'm laying it down. So then when this makes contact with our CPU, the paste just goes down and spreads out nice and evenly. But when you look down here, you definitely line it up a lot better than just putting it on there randomly without looking. So now we're gonna take the included screwdriver, put it through this point up here, and that'll allow us to reach the screw. And then we're just gonna turn it a little bit just to get it to attach. And now let's get the other point to attach. Same thing, put it through, get it to line up. Now we're gonna secure this one a little bit. So we like to secure both a little bit first, so then we can get even pressure as we're screwing this down. Now screw this one a little bit, the other one a little bit, and we'll finish securing the other one now. Keep turning till our screwdriver stops. There we go. And the other one, keep screwing till it stops. There's a safety, so you can't over tighten it. Once the screwdriver stops, you're good. Stop. That's a beautiful looking heatsink installed really well. So because we're doing a little bit here and then a little bit there, we're just getting our heatsink to make contact with our CPU nice and evenly. Spread the thermal paste around evenly. Now you want to always get rid of these metal ties, because these metal ties can make contact with your motherboard and short something. So I like to get rid of all metal ties on all cables, including the case cables as well. All right, so for the 2 fans on our heatsink, there's 2 cables. One of the cables, our 4-pin fan connector cable, powers and controls the fans. The second cable is the 3-pin ARGB, and that controls the lighting capabilities of the 2 fans. So for our first cable, to control the fans, we're gonna hook it up to this input right here, guys. It's labeled CPU fan, and it's located just right above the heatsink. So let's get that plugged in. All right, that's good to go. And now for our 3-pin ARGB cable. Before we plug this thing in to our 3-pin input right here, we're going to be using a 4-way 3-pin ARGB splitter. For our build here today, you can use a 2-way 3-pin ARGB splitter, but this is all I have on hand here in the office, a 4-way, so that's why we're using this. But I'll go ahead and link the ARGB splitter in the video description. So the reason we're using this is because we're gonna be hooking up 3 ARGB devices. The first one, the 2 fans of the heatsink. The second one, the ARGB fans of the case. And the third thing are Crater ARGB strips. And this motherboard only has 1 ARGB input. So that is why we're going to be using the splitter to be able to use everything. The reason why I said you only need a 2-way ARGB splitter, not a 4-way, because once we hook up this to our motherboard, this up here heatsink that we're using lets us then hook up a second 3-pin ARGB device. It already has a built-in, you can call it a splitter, but this is a daisy chain system is what it has. So we would hook this up to the motherboard. And then you would proceed to add a 2-way splitter here to then hook up our Crater RGB strips and the case fans. So there's multiple ways you can do this, but I'm just going to be using the 4-way splitter for our build here today. And then the splitters come with the attachments, the pins. So I'm going to hook them up to the splitter, and then I can connect it to our heatsink fans. So there we go. That's our first device connected to our splitter. And to review, the other 2 inputs of our splitter are going to be used for the lighting of our case fans and our Crater ARGB strips. And these are optional parts. It's simply for aesthetics. You obviously don't need ARGB strips for your computer to work, but this just makes the aesthetics of your build a lot better. So that's why we use them. While we're talking about the extras, let's just go over them real quick. Extras not part of the budget, only essential parts. They will be split accordingly in the video description. So first, Crater ARGB strips, gonna provide a lot of lighting inside our build. 2 very bright, flexible strips with strong magnetic attachments and the necessary cables you need. Our custom sleeve power supply cables in the blue and white colorway to match our color theme of choice for this build. Blue and white, we're gonna be using a Hunter Killa Funko Pop in there to give our build character. It's gonna look awesome. And to finish it all off, we're gonna be using custom screws. These look beautiful and are gonna match. Gonna add a nice little pop to our build. Blue thumb screws. And a GPU support. Either the small size, when we're building our build, we'll see which one we decide which one we need. And just those few parts right there take a build from like here to all the way up there as far as the looks. It looks so much better. You'll see what I'm talking about. Next, for our RAM of choice, 32GB kit, T-Crate brand, 16,000 megahertz for the speed, 2 sticks of 16GB, total 32GB in a beautiful white colorway. Take a look at these sticks right here, guys. They look pretty clean. These two guys are gonna go into our second and fourth RAM slots. So pull the lever back of the second and fourth slot. The RAM only goes in one way. Make sure you line up the part of the RAM that's indented with the part on the RAM slot that's not indented. So for our first stick, we simply get it into the slot, let it sit down into place, and now we push down with both thumbs equal force. And our RAM stick's gonna go all the way in, and this lever will lift back up. Same thing for our second stick. Get it in the slot, push down both thumbs equal force, all the way. Make sure the RAM goes in all the way. This is very important. Next, our M.2 SSD, the super speedy 1TB KLEVV with a sequential read of 5,000 megabytes per second, sequential write of 4,800 megabytes per second. A nice and speedy, well-priced Gen 4 M.2 SSD. So here we have our beautiful speedy 1TB M.2 SSD, and it comes with a heatsink. Looks pretty clean, that we will be using because this motherboard doesn't come with a heatsink on the M.2 slot. So here we have our M.2. We're gonna remove the protective film behind the included heatsink, and then we're gonna place it right on top, just like that. Give it a little press. And here's our finished product. So now we're gonna get the bag that came with our motherboard, which includes the SSD standoff we need with the screw. And let's take a look at our M.2 slot right under our heatsink. We're going to screw this standoff into this point right here. So there we go, we screwed it in a little bit and just finish screwing it in all the way down. And then I can use a 0 screwdriver to finish securing this standoff. There we go. And now what we're gonna do is we're gonna move this all the way to the right side. We're gonna insert our M.2 SSD just like that. And now we're gonna lay the SSD on top of the standoff, and we're gonna push this up, and that's what's gonna hold down the M.2 SSD. And that's it, guys. M.2 SSD installed. We're looking pretty good so far. Now it's time to put our motherboard inside our case. And for our case, the Apevia Hydra in the white colorway. This is my first time using this case. Here we go. All right. Behold the Apevia Hydra! What do you guys think? I think it looks amazing. Woo! This is a ATX form factor case, so it will support a smaller micro ATX board, but it will also support bigger ATX boards. All right, enough talking. Let's keep progressing with the build. What are we at so far? Grand total up on the screen right now. So let's remove the front and back panel. On top, this case has one USB 3, two USB 2s, headphone mic input, obviously, an LED button to control the lighting of the fans, and the power button. We'll talk more about the lighting system of the fans when we get there. We're gonna get the accessories out, instruction manual if you want to take a look at it. But why would you do that? I got you guys. In the back, go ahead and remove the metal ties as mentioned earlier, all of them. Last, I like to get rid of the hard drive cage for more space. We're not gonna be using hard drives, we're not gonna be using regular SSDs. 2 screws on the bottom, comes right off. Now, before we install our motherboard inside our case, we wanna first make sure that all the points on the motherboard line up with all the motherboard standoffs inside our case. So we need to first move around some standoffs. I'm gonna be using a 5mm nut driver, looks like this. And first, we're gonna be removing these 2 bottom standoffs. We're not going to be using them. Those are for ATX layout. We're going micro ATX. Now the standoffs we're gonna add one here, 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 and here. Additional standoffs are in the included bag of the case. Okay guys, so now to review, the standoffs that were already installed in the case are blue. The new ones we added, 4 of them, are green. And then the 2 that we removed on the bottom, those are circled red. Next, we need to install the I/O shield. We want to make sure that the 3 circles right here are on the bottom, and we're going to put this in right here into the back of our case, line up all 4 points and clip it in. And what the I/O shield does is it protects our motherboard ports by covering the openings. Now we can hold our motherboard from our heatsink. As we're putting it in, make sure that the cables of the fans right here are not trapped underneath our motherboard, so make sure they are up here out of the way. Putting my motherboard in, lining up the ports of the motherboard back here with the I/O shield, and once that's done, I lay the motherboard flat onto the standoffs. There we go. And we now secure our board with the screws that came with the case. This screw right here. Motherboard secure. Now to review, 2 on the bottom, 3 in the middle, and 3 on the top. I'm gonna reconnect our splitter, it got disconnected. And now I'm gonna wire all the cables of our heatsink and the splitter to the back of the case through up here. We're looking good so far. Now time for the installation of our power supply. A 750 watt bronze rated MSI power supply. The MAG A750BE. Let the reflection be gone. The new power supply smell. Wow, chemicals. This is a semi-modular power supply, which means only some of the cables are connected to it. So the big 24 pin and our CPU power cable are connected to it. And now we need to hook up a couple more power cables to it. Go ahead and get out all the cables. Comes with the screws to install it. We're only hooking up the SATA cable and 2 8-pin PCI cables that are gonna power our graphics card. Just 3 cables total. First cable we're plugging in is our SATA cable. The ends of it look like this, and we plug in the other end into our power supply under SATA/peripheral. Anywhere here or here is fine. Next, our 8-pin PCI express cable powers our graphics card. One of the ends of it is labeled PCI and it's split 6+2. This is the end that will plug into your graphics card or extension cables if you're going to use them. We're going to plug in the other end that's all together to the power supply into here, CPU/PCI express. And remember, we got 2 out of the bag, so we're going to do the same thing for the second one. This is the exact same cable, and we're going to plug this one up on top right here. Another CPU/PCI slot. All right, all our cables are connected to our power supply. Now this next step, totally optional. We're gonna be plugging in our Crater extension cables. So instead of the stock power supply cables being on display, we're going to instead hook up the power supply cable that would originally hook up to the motherboard, hook it up to the extension, and now the end of the extension will hook up to the motherboard instead, and this will be on display in the front of our build, and it's gonna look a lot better. These cables are gonna look awesome inside our build, and it's gonna match our color theme, white and light blue. And soon we'll be installing the custom thumb screws as well and our Funko Pop of choice. First extension we plugged in is the big 24 pin one. You can't miss it, it's the biggest power cable. Second extension we're hooking up is our CPU power cable. This is also an 8-pin cable, but it's split 4+4. We want to get the other end of the extension that's all together, and we're gonna hook it up to our CPU power cable that is labeled. This cable was already hooked up to the power supply, and now our PCI extension, which is gonna power our graphics card. This one is also an 8-pin cable, but it is split 6+2. Get the other end of it that's all together and hook that up to one of our PCI cables that we hooked up to the power supply. Done. And then we do the exact same thing for the second PCI cable. So to review, CPU power cables are an 8-pin 4+4. PCI power cables, aka graphics card power cables, are 8 pins that are 6+2. All right, great. Our power supply is ready to go. So let's go to the back of our case, and we're gonna slide our power supply into here with the fan facing down. So it's gonna suck in the cold air from the bottom and blow the hot air out through here. So we line it up with the 4 points and secure it. And power supply installed. That is how it looks with the regular screws. Now we're gonna go ahead and make a cut to the optional light blue thumb screws. I'll link these in the video description. So before and the after, not bad. It's the little touches that make a big difference. Moving on to the connection of all our cables. No need to get intimidated by this spaghetti mess. We simplify the process by breaking down all the cables into 3 groups. First group of cables is our power supply cables, which power things. Second group of cables is all our case cables from the case that connect things like our power button, our USB ports of the case to the motherboard. And then our third and final group of cables is all our fans and our lighting. First group of cables are power cables. The big 24-pin power cable is going to be wired through this opening right here to the front of the case. We want the clip of our big 24-pin power cable to clip in all the way right here. And this is right next to our RAM sticks. So we're gonna line it up straight and then push in all the way till it clips. And there we go, guys. Make sure it goes all the way in and this clips back here. All right, and if we come out a little bit and we go to the top left of our motherboard, that 8-pin input all the way back there is where we're gonna hook up our CPU power cable. So we're gonna find our CPU power cable, 4+4. Make sure we attach it together. We're gonna wire it through up here to the front of the case. And again, same thing, this clip needs to clip up here. Lining it up straight. I lined it up by looking up here on the top of the case, guys, and then push it in all the way. Getting to the CPU input to plug in our power cable, it is a tight fit. As you can see, my whole hand is in here, but I was able to fit it through. I held onto the cable and then I plugged it in all the way till it clips. You want to make sure you get all these cables all the way in, guys. You don't plug them in all the way, you can have some problems. And it should look like that. So where my nail is right there in the middle of these 2 cables, there shouldn't be a gap. It needs to go all the way and touch. That's how you know you plugged it in all the way. The last 2 power cables are for our graphics card, but that's later. Moving on to our second group of cables. Our case cable consists of HDMI HD audio cable labeled, USB 2 cable labeled, blue USB 3 cable, and our little JFP1 cables for our power switch and power LED. Last cable is this LED switch. It comes connected. Go ahead and leave it connected. LED switch to LED switch. That's for the lighting of the fans that are pre-installed in the case. So first case cable is the HD audio cable. I'm wiring it through down here to the front of the case. This cable is going to hook up to the far left of our motherboard. HD audio only goes in one way, so HD audio text facing up for this. Line it up straight, push it in all the way. Next cable is USB 2. It can plug in here or here. Wiring it through the same spot as our last cable. This cable also only goes in one way with USB text facing down. Line it up straight, push it all the way. And now on the right side of our USB 2 cable, we're going to plug in JFP1. We're going to throw up our JFP1 chart up on the screen right now. First, our power LED cables. Power LED positive goes on first pin. Power LED negative goes on 2 pin. So right up there like that. And power switch positive and negative doesn't matter. And it's going to hook up to 3 and 4 pin right next to power LED, and it should look like that. Now if we pull back and up here, this is where our USB 3 cable is going to hook up. So we're going to wire our USB 3 through the side right here. As you can see, it has a hump on one of its sides. This is the side that has clearance for the hump. There's pins in here, so you want to make sure you line it up straight so you don't bend the pins in there. Once you have it lined up straight, push it all the way, just like that. And that was fast, right guys? Final group of cables. Group 3 are fans of the case and their lighting, and then our crater RGB LED strips. So first, here's the fan controller of the case. All 6 fans are already hooked up to the fan controller. So all we have to do is give power to the fan controller with one SATA plug. So we're gonna get a SATA power cable from our power supply that we hooked up earlier, and we're gonna hook that up to our fan controller. Just like that. Our fans are now powered. The next cable is a 3-pin ARGB cable. This controls the lighting of the fans. So that needs to hook up to our fan splitter that we hooked up earlier. So we're gonna hook it up to our fan splitter lined up arrow to arrow. And I'll go ahead and link this fan splitter in the video description. So the first ARGB device was the lighting of the fans of our CPU cooler. Second ARGB device is the fan controller that controls the lighting of all 6 case fans. And the final ARGB device is our crater ARGB strip kit. These strips are gonna provide a lot of light inside of our build, and there's a lot of different lighting effects because they're ARGB strips, addressable RGB, where you're gonna be able to throw a nice bright splash of light inside your build, and it's gonna show off your components really well. If you purchase these, you're directly supporting me and the channel, and that I really do appreciate. We hook up the strips together, then we hook up one of the ends of the strips to an extension cable, and then that extension cable hooks up to our 3-pin ARGB connector that will then plug into, you guessed it, our ARGB 3-way splitter or an ARGB input on your motherboard. But as I mentioned earlier, this motherboard only has one ARGB input, which is why we're using our splitter. What you should pick up, I'll link that one, right? Putting in the pins to the splitter that it came with, and then connecting it arrow to arrow. And that is it. We've connected all the cables. We flew by it, very simple. And now both strips are connected to the motherboard through the splitter. So now we're gonna be able to control the colors of all fans of the build and the 2 ARGB strips with the motherboard lighting software. So now cue the time lapse. This side strip right here, guys, fit like a glove. The strong magnetic attachments just went right underneath here and it tucked in. So we have one strip right here. We have a 90 magnetic attachment here and here. We have no attachments here because for this case, there's not enough clearance for another attachment. And then our second strip just goes right down here. So very, very clean installation. Now, the final part, the installation of our graphics card, the AMD RX 7600 XT with 16 gigs of VRAM. That's a lot. We did something a little special to this one. We are back with the spray painting. We spray painted the RX 7600 XT to match our Funko Pop, a sky blue color. This card comes with the standard 3 display ports, 1 HDMI port. It's gonna take 2 8-pins for the juice. We didn't spray paint the fans, obviously, because we don't want extra paint weight on them. We use pretty heavy duty paint too. It is heat resistant. This paint is definitely gonna stay on. And yeah, guys, came out really good. And this is gonna make a big difference as far as the looks of the build. It's gonna sit right there, and it looks good. Very simple to spray paint the card. We simply undid all the screws, took apart both of the plates, spray painted both of the plates, let it dry. Then we had to clean off the thermal paste and reapply brand new thermal paste as we were putting it all back together. And it came out looking amazing. To install our 7600 XT, it's gonna go right here into our first PCI slot. Take off the protective and this lever, we push it back. There we go. We need to make room for it. What the? Now the sticker's off. We need to make room for it by removing 2 of the brackets. So if we take a look right here in the back of the case, we're gonna remove the 2nd and 3rd brackets. We simply push these things in, but you want to be careful that these things right here don't scratch up your motherboard and potentially break something. So what I like to do is, as I'm pushing this down, I have my other finger up here lifting the other end of this metal part up. So this metal part never touches my board. And then you just keep going up, down, and the bracket falls off. Same thing for the next one, all the way down. Bend this out of the way, up, down, up, down. So we get our protective off our beautiful sky blue graphics card. Last, undo this screw back here to get this cover out of the way. All right, let's get our card in there. So we're gonna line up our card straight with our PCI slot. So I have it in, and I'm gonna push straight just like our RAM sticks and make sure our graphics card goes in all the way. And that lever right there in the middle that we pushed back earlier is gonna clip back up, securing the graphics card. And now we secure our card with 2 screws that came with the case. Now we're gonna put the cover back on, and we will not secure it with the stock screw. We're gonna use our custom sky blue thumb screw. And the final step, the installation of the juice. We're gonna hook up our 2 8-pin power cables. I'm gonna wire them through the bottom of the case. In goes one all the way, and the second one. Make sure it clips in all the way. All right, guys, we did it. Congratulations if you were following along. We are done with everything. Now it's just a matter of cable managing the back, installing the Funko Pop, and slapping on both panels. Cue the time lapse.
I see you in my thoughts and in my dreams. When I'm awake, you're almost next to me. When we're apart, I'm longing for your face. I need you here, I'm feeling out of place. My heart is yours, I'm giving it to you.
Okay, guys, make sure you flip on your power supply. And here is our first boot up. Power button up here. The Funko Pop, unfortunately, I'm not gonna have it in the build long term. Unfortunately, with this graphics card, as you can see, the back plate, it ends short. It does not continue all the way over here, and that was the only room I had for the Funko Pop in this build. I doubt it'll get hot enough to melt or anything like that, but it's obviously very unprofessional having the figure right on top of the heatsink metal. It looks sick though. If you go to a different graphics card with a long back plate, then you're good to stick the Funko on top of the back plate, no worries. This build came out really good though, guys. In the video description, all the parts we use will be listed into 2 groups. The essentials parts list and all the optional parts that was only for aesthetics. That is the extras list. We built a sick looking build that's super aesthetically pleasing, but also performs well too. If you were following along, congratulations guys, you're gonna love this build. Time to find out how it performs. We're gonna put this in the build against 25 games. Time to frag it up. But
Hey, listen up and listen up good. You're not ready to go just yet. You need to install Windows. Windows can be a pretty price, but not anymore. Thanks to FragItUp.shop, you'll be fragging it up in no time. Pick up Windows 11 Pro with an OEM activation key for only 25 bucks. Shipping from the US of A. Go pick it up right now at FragItUp.shop. That's an order, soldier! Now you will need to watch this video. Here you will learn how to install Windows and all drivers for your new rig, plus some other important tips as well. The video will be linked in the description. What are you waiting for? Get back out there, soldier!
before we start the benchmarks, we downloaded the Motherboard's program, MSI Center. Depending on the brand of motherboard you get, it'll have its separate program. Within here, I then download Cooling Wizard in the MSI Center. We're then going to go to Customize. We're going to go to our CPU fan, and this is the default fan profile. We don't want this. We want the fans on our heatsink that's cooling our CPU to turn up to 100% way earlier, not at C. So I'm going to move this all the way to 65, and I'm going to move this over to 55. So that's at 65 for 100%. This is at 55 for 70%. Then we're going to click save, exit out of this, apply up here, and there, we're good to go. 1440p res for the quality. We have AMD FSR set to quality here. The rest of the settings, and for our view, max FOV 120.
Enemy UAV already.
Revenge. And we're playing on 1440p on the RX 7600 XT, super smooth, great. Average FPS 194. AMD FSR2 on quality. Here are the rest of the settings. We have view distance to epic, everything else is to medium. Textures are on epic. Ooh. They gotta stop standing still, making for easy snipe kills. That was awesome. Average FPS 101. 1440p res on performance mode. Here is the rest of the settings. Oh, getting really good FPS, man. Getting 300 FPS right now. There may be someone underneath in the water. Yup, he's hiding.
Are you cheating?
No, man, I'm just keeping my eyes peeled. I see them all.
Oh. Nice.
Oh, one right on us. Go, 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 go.
This thing's gonna break. Get out, get out. Wait, he just rebooted.
Oh,
it's a
crap.
2v2 now. They're over there. Yup, yup, shoot them. No shield.
I'm
Dead.
blind.
It's only one, it's only one. Oh, yeah, he gave up.
All right, average FPS for Fortnite, 259. Native 1440p res. For advanced video, AMD anti-lag is enabled, and here are the rest of our settings. Boom, son. Go, calm down. All right, when you die in Counter-Strike 2, notice how the FPS goes down? Bro, this is so smooth, dude. Oh, crap! No! Oh! Counter-Strike 2 performance was really good. Average FPS 233, 1440p res. Here's the graphics quality. Kill him, kill him, kill him, kill him.
I'll be back.
Thank you. Boom.
Fought well. Jet ground. Good attempt. Enemy down.
I want to try to get at least one no scope. There we go.
Opponent killed.
Average FPS for VALORANT 479. 1440p resolution, native, 90 FOV. Here are the graphic settings. First impressions for Siege performance, very good.
Friendly operator remaining.
No, bro. Oh my god, look at his health. Boom. We got MVP, guys. $900 PC, native 1440p on Rainbow Six Siege, competitive FPS. The average FPS up on the screen is not accurate because the FPS goes up too high during the menus. Very good performance. The next one, 1440p. Here are the rest of the settings. Fuck.
On the keys like Tony throwing something about my bread like a hoagie.
Oh! The performance for Apex was amazing. 1440p, average FPS 249, 90 FOV, native 1440p res. Here are the rest of the settings.
It's like we're drowning in them.
There, they're both dead. Oh my god, our teammates left. What the f, bro? We could still win. We just can't let them score at all now.
We all just trying to build a foundation. We all just trying to build a foundation.
Good job, guys. We're gonna win this. We got this. We got this. We got to score now.
I couldn't quit if I tried. It's been a ride with all the waves and the tides. A little emptiness inside from all the days with the guys. Try to mask it, but I know you see the
Nice! Oh, it's just a tie. Well, performance is pretty good. 111 average FPS, not bad for 1440p on Halo Infinite on a $900 PC. Next one, 1440p. Here are the graphic settings. Could we just run out of here?
real fast as fuck.
Oh my god, we made it, guys. Alright guys, well the FPS inside is obviously a lot higher. We're currently using 8 gigabytes of VRAM. GPU utilization to the max out here in the city, what we like to see in the high 90s. Alright, let's drive for a little bit. Whoops. Okay, well inside guys, the average FPS was well that 186, but outside as you can see the FPS drops down to 140. Still good performance. Native 1440p. Here are the advanced graphics settings. Let's do it. Lights out. Woo! Average FPS for PUBG 1440p res 123, 1440p res. Here are the rest of the settings. Fun! This is what I need, just like Popeye spinach. Bruh. What the fuck? Oh my god. Performance was great, but we couldn't get a freaking kill. Average FPS 117. 1440p. FSR on quality. Frame generation on. Here are the graphics settings. Texture quality very high. And the rest of the settings.
He's here! Weapons? Not on my watch! Stick to the plan! God, have a gun club in the city!
Gotta get that guy with the gun.
You take a...
Oh, one uppercutting it done.
Oh man, that sucks.
Average FPS for Spider-Man 2, 175. Here are the settings. Frame gen is on, and then high settings preset. This is the same settings as the $1,000 PC build guide we recently dropped. So you can totally compare the performance of the 900 versus our $1,000 build.
That fight with your
Damn, boy, what? GPU utilization right at 100. No way! He trolled us, we're not dead! We're still in it! Average FPS 144 for a 1440p, 144 hertz monitor. 1440p, FSR is on ultra quality, frame gen is on. Here are the rest of the settings. There's two. Heck yeah! Average FPS 140. Texture resolution very high. With the advanced graphics settings. Screw you guys! Dude. Oh, well, this is a good FPS test, not gonna lie. Average FPS for Crysis 3, 105. 1440p, 90 FOV. Here are the graphics settings. Outside in the world, it was 90 FPS. And here, FPS drops down during this cutscene of 40. So this is gonna kill the average FPS right now. Alright, we gotta head to the water tower. Okay, yeah, so outside the FPS is 90. GPU usage at max, 99%.
Pay up your debt to Warlock first.
Average FPS for Stalker 2, 85. 1440p. Here are the rest of the settings. Let's do it. With that, fuck! Everyone died except me. Everyone freaking died except me! Oh, crap. And that's a wrap. This card performed great at 1440p. I was very competitive in the shooters and we clicked heads. Like I mentioned in the beginning of the video, this is also a great build for 1080p gaming on a 360Hz panel. I know we didn't test 1080p out in this video, but if you YouTube 7600 XT 1080p benchmarks, I'm sure there'll be tons of videos showcasing that performance. Anyways, guys, I'll catch you guys in the next one, the RX 9070 XT. Go ahead and turn on bell notifications to be alerted when that drops. And last, thanks for all you guys' support and coming and chilling with me today for the $1,000 1440p build. See you guys next time. Peace.
Your sisters like me, your mother like me, your brother like me. Well, tell them fight me though.